I'm Rich. Welcome to Rich with Cars. On this week's video, I'm gonna bring you on a deep dive on the 2022 Aston Martin Vantage F1. Given the fact that I've been driving and testing out several different Aston Martins, I got the opportunity to now test drive the F1 edition, which was kind of like the last hurrah of the regular previous generation Vantage. And they did a number of things on it that basically upgraded the driving experience. Namely, some of the things include some aerodynamic upgrades, some minor engine upgrades. Of course, they tweaked the suspension and also the transmission to give it a more sporty drive. But as always, guys, I'm going to be going over the exterior, interior, some of the trunk, and of course, driving impressions. So guys, as always, let's strap in and take a look. So before we get into the looks of this car, let's talk about the background of the Vantage F1 edition. Aston Martin launched this model in 2021 to celebrate their return to Formula One after a 61-year absence, marking it a special moment in their history. Rather than being a limited edition car with specific number of units, Vantage F1 edition was produced for a predetermined amount of time, giving enthusiasts the opportunity to own a piece of motorsport heritage without the pressure of the ultra limited availability. Now, guys, don't get me wrong, the fact that this was actually produced for a limited amount of time still made this car quite limited in production numbers. I don't know how many they've actually made, but please comment in the comments below and let me know what the quantity of F1 edition Vantages have been produced. I'm very curious myself. Now let's get right into the exterior outlook of this F1 edition, basically showing you guys some of the more apparent changes that they made. So right off the bat, they basically made the grille blacked out and they added the horizontal strakes on the grille, and more importantly, for additional downforce, as you guys can see, they added the front lip spoiler with the canards. As you guys can see, these canards actually help in terms of the downforce that the car generates at high speeds. You have this blacked out Aston Martin badge. This is not painted, it's actually a decal, but it's the kind of like a racing stripe, you could say. The other thing also that they added were carbon fiber hood vents to aid in the dissipation of heat right out of the bonnet. The headlights stayed the same, as you guys can see, but then we see that the wheels are specific to the F1 edition. And this particular one has lime green, which is traditional Aston Martin, especially when it comes to F1. Another change is this carbon fiber with the F1 edition badging, and we'll see quite a bit of F1 edition badging around the vehicle as well. It does not have carbon fiber side skirts, but it still gives it a very, very menacing look. We do have carbon fiber mirror caps, and we do have a carbon fiber roof as well. That basically contains also the racing decal that continues all the way from the hood to the roof and the boot. You get to see this massive wing that we haven't seen in any other Aston Martins prior to it, or Aston Martin Vantages, but this definitely helps in terms of generating quite a bit of downforce. We get to see that the rear diffuser remains the same, and we also have the same exhaust pipes that we saw in the regular Aston Martin Vantage. We do have blacked out lettering, and of course, once again, the blacked out badging in the rear. So all in all, when it comes to this spec in this color, the F1 edition definitely stands out, especially when you see it in this profile view from the side, because of that rear wing is just absolutely enormous. To those enthusiasts like yourselves, you'll be able to actually tell the difference, like I said, especially when it comes to the front canards, the wheels, the side vents, and of course that massive rear wing. So that's your key. You get to see on one side that you have the lock, unlock, and the trunk release. Some chrome on the side, more gloss black in the back. When you do unlock the doors, the mirrors actually unfold. One thing that I didn't like about previous generation Aston Martins is that the door handle did not present itself. You just have to catch it when you pull it out. So looking at the door cards of the F1 edition, we get to see very specific things that the F1 edition has, namely the stitching and some of the piping that are very specific to the F1 Aston Martin racing team. Aston Martin never fails to impress when it comes to choice of materials, because you do have leather from top all the way to bottom, including inside of the storage cubby over here. So a bit of Alcantara here. You have this door handle that is in leather and Alcantara. You have your window controls and your side view mirror controls, and then once again, I mentioned before, F1 badging right here on the door sill. These seats, as always, very, very nice, and they're almost fully covered in Alcantara, as you guys can see. We have the typical Aston Martin Racing lime green piping that goes all the way up and down the seat itself. They're not specific to the F1, but they're good enough to keep you held into place if you take this into the track, but not too bolstered to be uncomfortable on long drives. Let's get her started. That's really cool, all red here. And of course, once again, you get to see another F1 edition badge right here in the middle. So, as always, inside, the F1 edition is as luxurious as you'd expect from Aston Martin. You get a choice of materials like leather, Alcantara, with the F1 edition badging and stitching throughout, like I said before. You do get to see the small 8-inch screen that is a previous generation Mercedes-Benz infotainment, and I would even say not even previous gen, it's like 4 or 5 generations prior. So you guys get to see this is very old technology from Mercedes-Benz. We have this traditional Aston Martin Vantage steering wheel, which is a mix of a circle and a square. The F1 edition does have Alcantara on the areas where you do get to grip, but everything else that is laid out on the steering wheel itself is not changed. You have your home button back, your different drive modes over here, the paddle shifters right behind this, which controls the 8-speed automatic transmission, which is not a dual clutch. The gauge cluster also has not changed, neither have the graphics themselves. So from a technology perspective, nothing's been upgraded. Everything that has to do with the F1 edition is all basically aesthetics, which have to do with aerodynamics and performance as well. This particular model was optioned with a leather dash, but I believe you can also do a full Alcantara dash as well. No back seats, and you do have direct access to the rear partial shelf or the rear trunk area. And you do have some convenience with a couple of cup holders. One thing that previous generation Aston Martins, including this one, really annoyed me was the fact that none of them actually had a glove compartment. This layout is a previous generation Vantages, which is way too laden with many buttons. It's a little bit too busy over here, at least from my perspective. I assume that once you get used to it, it could be a little bit useful in terms of not having to look at where you're pressing. And I'm very, very curious from those of you that do own a Vantage of this generation, how you managed to get used to it. And if you have, has it been easy to sort of press on the buttons without actually taking a look at the middle console? So under the hood, you have the famous Mercedes AMG source twin turbo 4-liter V8. In this particular F1 edition, it goes up from 503 horsepower to 527 horsepower. Torque remains the same at 505 pounds per foot of torque. Aside from the increased horsepower, they haven't really changed much. We get to see that there's no difference between a regular Vantage and the F1. One cool thing that I do love about the boot of the F1 edition is the fact that this parcel shelf right here, you can take it down to add or put larger items. So that's really, really useful. You could also put it back up as well. I'll put up the volume of the cargo area, and then also something really cool is the fact that you have this handle in leather so that you don't actually touch the paint and get it all smudged up. So that's really, really nice. Ultimately, the cargo area of the F1 edition remains unchanged. All right guys, so driving the Vantage F1 edition, I've been waiting a long time to give this baby a try and see how much different it feels to the regular Vantage. And we're talking about the previous generation, because now we have the new Vantage 2025 that's got the revised engine with the larger turbos, more horsepower, revised suspension, and of course it's a little bit wider. But this F1 actually started the whole trend, actually, because they used a lot of the learnings on the new Vantage that they basically took from the F1. This sounds quite menacing, quite loud. I would even say a little bit louder than the regular Vantage, and it does feel a little bit stiffer because they did revise the suspension on this. Of course, they made it a little bit stiffer so that it handles a little bit better on track. Trying out a little bit of the manual mode as well, because that's something else that Aston Martin did in terms of for the F1, is they also revised the transmission logic, and of course they made it slightly faster. Of course, it's not going to be dual clutch, but still pretty good. It's actually considerably faster, the shift times. I would say that the shift times are actually quicker on the upshifts than they are on the downshifts. That's what I've noticed so far. And it's quite fast. I wouldn't say it's as fast as the new Vantage, the one with the upgraded turbos and the 656 horsepower. This has a little bit more horsepower. I believe it's 527 or 528 horsepower compared to the regular Vantage's 503. The torque remains the same. I'm not sure if you're gonna really notice that horsepower increase, but you definitely feel it more in the transmission logic because it does shift faster, and you feel it a little bit more also on the handling. I haven't taken this on back roads, or I haven't even taken it on the racetrack, but taking corners on a little bit quicker, you get to feel that the car is a little bit more planted, to be honest. Steering feel, actually pretty good. It is quite communicative, quite responsive. You get to feel a little bit of what's going on the road. You get some relatively good feedback. Every time I let go of the gas, I don't know if you guys can hear that, I'll open the window a little bit. Lots of bangs and pops. You know, the seating position is actually quite good. You feel low enough. I don't think they changed the seating position in the F1 edition, but I can tell you that this feels more planted, more capable from a driver's perspective. The overall driving experience in the F1 is definitely better than the regular Vantage of the previous generation. Feels much more engaging than what it was before. If you guys are looking for one, I would tell you that you're not going to be disappointed. They did a great job on the F1. Just be ready to deal with a little bit of a stiffer suspension or a little bit of a stiffer ride and a louder exhaust. All right guys, so I hope you enjoyed this overview of the 2022 Aston Martin Vantage F1 edition. My experience so far with it has been incredible. Definitely noticeable differences in the driving dynamics, especially when it comes to the suspension, the transmission calibration, and also the steering as well. For those of you that are interested in this though, definitely feels different than the regular Vantage of the same generation. The new generation is considerably better when it comes to, at least from my perspective, the exterior design, especially when it comes to the front headlights. Interior layout is way better, at least from my perspective. And then in terms of driving dynamics, the new Vantage is so powerful, it's mind-blowing compared to this one. And even the suspension calibration that they did on the new one was actually quite good. Let's not forget that they took a lot of learnings from this one right behind me to make the new one as well. Huge thanks to Aston Martin of Orlando for allowing me to review this car. They have it on the dealership floor right now. If you guys are interested, they have it up for sale. I'm gonna put a link in the description below if you guys are interested. And as always guys, make sure to check out some of my other content. Comment below any questions that you guys have regarding this vehicle. I'll do my best to answer all your questions. And make sure to check out some of my other content in the library that I have. So guys, as always, thank you very much. Thanks for all the likes, all the views, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, take care, bye-bye.